On that note, let us begin our brainstorming. Now, what I'd like to do is activate your prior knowledge about this period of time in history. So Linda is going to be my scribe. And what I'd like you to do, and just shout out the answers, is think about two things. One, what were the changes in life post-World War II to the present? So the soldiers came home from the war, they're back at home. What changed in their lives? A, yes, Janice?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And B, if you know the reasons for why that happened, shout out the reason as well. And Linda will have two lists going, okay? Any questions about what we're going to do here, over here? And anyone, begin.
GI Bill, it helped to develop a larger middle class.
Okay.
Educated people.
Great.
Women wanted to go to work
Okay.
because during the war they had worked
Uh-huh.
and they liked it.
Right. And they wanted to continue.
Right.
Great. Let's talk about this. For all that television likes to portray, particularly the 1950s, as sort of the Leave It to Beaver, nuclear, happy family, we know, reflecting back, that there was a lot of strife during that period of time, leading up to what took place primarily in the 1960s.
Right.
Joseph McCarthy.
Right, McCarthyism, absolutely. Women's rights and civil rights. All of that was brewing. Women were angry. They had worked, as Anne said. In World War II, they were called upon to work, to take the place of the men who were fighting in the war. Now they're back and they're out of jobs. And they're like, why? We can work. So they're getting angry. They wanted their rights. Civil rights were brewing. So it wasn't all the bliss that the television of that time period liked to portray. So if this was a lesson with your learners, what we just did is we started the social studies lesson by finding out what your learner, you, all knew about this period of time before we even dove into the subject matter, correct? We activated some prior knowledge, and we then will meet them where they're at, which is really, really important with our learners. We don't spend, as you all know, we don't spend a whole lot of time teaching them things they already know. Yet we can't assume what they know and what they don't know. So it's our jobs at the first steps to find out what it is they do know. So now I've done that. You guys know a lot about this period of history. Out of cities. Now, visualize that this is a writing your students prepared for you, okay? Student A, many Americans moved out of cities. Many Americans moved out of small towns. Many Americans moved to the suburbs. Lots of our students write like that. Many Americans. You see a pattern? Many Americans, many Americans, many Americans. What's wrong with those sentences? If there was an essay, what might you say to your student?
You need more variety in your sentence.
Aha! Why? Why?
To make it more interesting.
Right, absolutely. So you might think about combining some of these sentences. It's okay to have compound sentences together for the very reason Janice said, for variety. If you do the repetitive, many Americans, many Americans, many Americans, and believe me when I say most of our students write that way. And although it might be grammatically correct, when writing an essay, it's not particularly engaging. And it's not how we want to instruct our students to prepare for the task exam either. So, now that you're up there, you have to stay up there. Tell me what you did.
I combined the ideas.
Okay, you did. What words did you use?
Well, I kept the main point about the cities where they moved from, and then I put it together with where they moved to.
Right, absolutely, and you use those with some key connective words, and what were the connective words you used?
Connective words are, well, and for.
Yeah. Good. This is such a key strategy that our students need to know in order to be successful, not only in writing clearly in the future, but in passing the TASC exam. They have to have the ability to connect simple sentences and make them a longer, more complex sentence, as Anne did right here. Yes, Janice?
Now,
If you have a student, and we do have a small handful that would like to go on to FMCC, SUNY Cobleskill, etc., you might want to start getting them writing in a more complex fashion.
Can I speak to
yes,
this for one
sure.
second? The other part of that, though, is if they go into training. So say they don't go on for higher ed, but they go to training, on-the-job training. A lot of times, the sentences are going to be more complex in their training manuals, and so they're going to need to kind of do the reverse in their head of having a complex sentence and being able to pull the parts out of it too. So that's something to keep in mind, that it's going to make them better readers and able to really understand, to write it. When you write it, it's so much easier to then understand it when you read it and to be able to break those ideas out.
Okay, can you tell the group what you did?
okay, I combined them into two sentences. So I have soldiers came home and found peacetime jobs. Then I said, as soldiers got married, they purchased homes with modern appliances and started families, because these seem to go together.
Okay. Now, if you had a student, Janice, come back. If you had a student that did some reading in between lessons and came back with these sentences, why would you tell them it's important to be able to combine some of those sentences, other than it'll get you a 2 on the essay and you'll pass the task?
Because you have to be able to see ideas as they connect.
Okay.
So, for example, this is all connecting to getting married, having a family, and what that involves. This is connected to, well, basically, as they came home, the first thing they had to do was find peacetime jobs.
Right.
So it gives you a better idea of how they link together.
Absolutely, which improves comprehension. So many, thank you, Janice. So many of our students, yes, Lawrence?
I think that it's also important to arrange it chronologically.
Right, organization.
And then
Right.
follow.
So many of our students, I think, look at a sentence in isolation when they're reading something, and they don't have the ability to connect it to the next sentence, to the next sentence, to the next sentence, and certainly don't have the ability to look at the paragraph as a whole and to fully understand what the relationships are and to fully understand it. So by doing an exercise like this, you're reinforcing the relationships between the sentences and the facts, and you're improving comprehension. You're also improving, which is so important, organization, which so many of our students, as you know, lack. I mean, how many, and so it's our job to show them what it means and to develop their ability to find the relationships between the sentences. Okay? And we did that not necessarily with a freestanding English language arts lesson, which most of our students are just going to groan through. We incorporated it right with content social studies. So we kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone, which is a great thing.